Now, it's been quiet for the last couple of weeks on this front, but it feels like the calm before the storm. The Royals will be picking in the next few weeks where they will want to play moving forward. That could be North Kansas City and Clay County, or, of course, the East Village, downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Patrick Ishmael is with the Show Me Institute. He's on KCMO Talk Radio. All right, Patrick, as we go through this process over these next few weeks, what's concerning you about this?
Well, it's interesting that you say that it's been quiet the last few weeks because you're exactly right. But last week we actually had a story published in Flightland KC that kind of explains a little bit of that. There had been a suggestion from the Royals that Jackson County had not been responsive to their request to, engage on what their tax incentive package should be. And again, to be clear, no sports team should get any tax incentive package at all. It's bad policy. The Royals, Chiefs, we love them, but they should be paying their own way and not taking taxpayer money. But the Royals had said that Jackson County had not responded to basically their offer or their inquiry about what would Jackson County offer. And as it turns out, it sounds like Jackson County has kind of gone radio silent on the Royals. And that is, I think at the end of the day, I think it makes it more likely that the Royals would probably move. And as your listeners know, their most likely destination, if not downtown Kansas City, is going to be in North Kansas City. So within eyeshot of where, almost eyeshot where they are now, and within eyeshot of where they would be if they had moved into downtown Kansas City. But if you're going to have two sports teams and they're both going to want a new stadium, it's better to, I think, just pay for one rather than both of them. And if the Royals move to North Kansas City, I think it's actually probably going to be a good thing for Kansas City proper because at least they won't have to underwrite one of those sports teams. And of course, Jackson County has all sorts of other problems too. When you're looking at the assessment issue, if you have 30% on average increases to people's assessments, it's not a good look to be giving away money to teams while you're raising taxes on retired people and single moms and families. So you're exactly right. It's kind of been radio silent the last few weeks, more or less, but I think a lot of it has to do with Jackson County, and whether they intended it this way or not, if they were radio silent because they don't want to give out those incentives or they're just being obstinate, the result is still going to be good policy. Jackson County and Kansas City shouldn't be paying for the Royals' amenities, and if they're going to create their own entertainment district, they might as well do so elsewhere while still in the Kansas City area. It's a win-win for Kansas City, and I think it's good news overall.
But then Clay County, ultimately, I mean, they're going to ask something out of the Clay County voter as well, so it's just a matter of who in the region gets asked for the money, right? I mean, that's all we're debating here.
Yeah, practically speaking, the result is still going to be kind of a net no change and probably benefit to the Royals themselves. But in terms of carrying the burden of these teams, right now it's Jackson County and Kansas City and the state of Missouri, of course. Mm-hmm. And again, the advice that I would give to Clay County is to not subsidize professional sports. And
but Patrick, it's not even, let's be honest, there's no point of even talking about that because it happens all over the country, right? I mean, I know it's a fantasy world, and I agree with you, but it's a moot point because it never I mean, is there one place in the country, do you know of, where a sports team has not been subsidized?
Well, you'd have to go back a few years, but I believe that the Dallas Stadium was almost entirely unsubsidized. I think it was the Dallas Cowboys took it upon themselves to more or less build their entire stadium, and it is relatively uncommon. But there are certainly projects that might have a public component to it, but they're still almost entirely privately financed. I think of like the Kaufman Performing Arts Center, which is certainly a public asset, but it is vastly paid out of private funds. I believe that there's a public garage on site, and I believe that was underwritten by the public. But it is possible to have amenities like this and entertainment sites that are not publicly financed, at least to the hilt that we typically see. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. It may be a fantasy, but it's still good policy and much better for the public. And you look at a place like the Power and Light District. The Power and Light District will never, ever pay for itself. And a lot of folks don't realize that the tax revenue that's generated from that site is not going to pay for itself. And it was made pretty clear during the Royals World Series runs that you basically had to have that kind of activity in the Power and Light District just for break even, and that will never happen. So, yeah, it is a fantasy, but good policy still demands somebody say it, and it may not be popular, but it is something that that I'm going to say, as often as necessary, even as unlikely it is to really change minds.
No, and listen, I am very much in agreement and sympathetic to it. I just I also know that, we're in a place where the reality is the Chiefs are going to get a lot of money from Jackson County. The Royals are going to get a lot of money probably from Clay County. So now, like the Chiefs side of things, and this is always what teams will say, well, us being here is good for the community. It's good for a city. When we're playing well, it brings goodwill. It brings, marketing attention. Like, I don't know how you quantify it, but I do think the Chiefs hosting 5 straight AFC championship games and winning Super Bowls and seeing Kansas City on the world stage is inherently good for Kansas City. I don't know how you put a dollar figure on it, but I do know that without the Chiefs and the Royals, why isn't Kansas City basically Des Moines, Omaha, or Wichita?
I mean, that's a great question. And, I will say that it is great that we have Royals and Chiefs, and we have the local support that we have both in some of those ownership groups, but also the fans themselves have been stupendous. It's why they stay where they are. But, I will say, though, that if the Royals and the Chiefs end up the Royals and Chiefs are staying in Kansas City. That's not even the debate, fortunately. We're not in a situation like Oakland where, the Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas, but before that, the Oakland A's, the Kansas City A's, and before that, they were the Philadelphia A's. Like the institutions that we have, our professional sports institutions are very committed to this city. And so fortunately, we don't have a situation where we're afraid that they're going to move out of the region. And within that framework, if we know that they're going to stay within the region, I think that, fans can still be great partners for the teams themselves, attending games, buying merchandise, supporting them in all ways that they can, without saying, stipulating that, for you to stay here, we think that we're going to have to subsidize you through the tax code. I just don't believe that. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, having a sports team is an enormous advantage, especially from a public relations standpoint. It's still shocking to me that we have Patrick Mahomes, who is an international superstar. But again, like some of that is a lot of that skill when you're choosing, drafting people, but some of that is, chaos, accident. You don't necessarily know that that's going to happen. Certainly, I don't think the Chiefs knew it was going to happen specifically. And if other teams knew it was going to happen, then why wouldn't they have drafted? Mm-hmm. So I think it puts us in a more prominent place in the international conversation. But Kansas City is known for a lot of things internationally that may not be on the nightly news or on the sports pages, but we're not a cow town exclusively. We do a lot of different things too. So it's great to have these sports teams, and we're going to continue having these sports teams. Mm-hmm. But it's not our identity, and I'm sure that most Kansas Cityans don't view it that way.
Yeah, I would agree. Patrick Ishmael with the Show Me Institute on KCMO. Well, we will have you back because I think at the end of September we'll know where the Chiefs finally want to be, and then I'm sure the tax debate will only pick up, Patrick. So we'll do it again in a few weeks. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Pete.
You bet. That is Patrick Ishmael on KCMO.